My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 31 years old. And last Christmas, my mother put a dollar amount on my seat at the family table. She stood at the head of the dining room, the same dining room where I learned to count coins with my grandmother, where my grandfather taught me that a handshake means nothing without the numbers to back it up, and announced in front of 24 relatives that I owed my younger sister $78,000 for her dream wedding. Then my stepfather leaned back in his chair, crossed his arms, and looked at me the way a man looks at someone who has already failed a test they haven't taken yet. He said, "Every person at this table agrees. This is what family does." My phone started ringing before I hit the end of the driveway. 97 calls in one day. 38 voicemails. Most of them from people I see twice a year, all of them with the same message: pay up. But here is what not one of them knew. I had spent 8 years quietly keeping track of this family's money. And what I found told a story that no one sitting at that dinner table was ready to hear. Welcome to Hidden Family Accounts. This channel is for the person who sits quietly and notices everything. If you have ever been handed a bill you never agreed to, drop it in the comments and subscribe because we are just getting started. I live in Columbus, Ohio. It is a mid-sized city in the middle of the country, the kind of place where the seasons actually change and where people still wave from their front porches. I rent a one-bedroom apartment on the 3rd floor of a building that used to be a grain warehouse. Tall ceilings, old hardwood floors, and a window that faces east so I get the sunrise every morning whether I want it or not. I work 6 blocks away. I am a licensed CPA at Carver & Associates, a 10-person firm that handles taxes and audits for small businesses, real estate investors, and a few family trusts. I have been there for 6 years. My desk is in the corner office not because I am the most senior person, but because I was the one who stayed late enough to claim it. I know where every file lives. I know which clients round their numbers and which ones don't. I like this work because it is honest. Numbers do not change their answer to protect your feelings. I am not wealthy. I drive a 2016 Toyota Camry with a cracked rear bumper I keep meaning to fix. My apartment furniture is a combination of clearance finds and things I bought from estate sales on Saturday mornings. My savings account holds $38,000. I know the exact date I crossed every $5,000 mark because I have tracked every dollar for 8 years. I paid my own way through Ohio State University, federal loans, a part-time job at the campus library, and a merit scholarship I applied for twice before I received it. I paid off every cent of those loans in 7 years. No one in my family made a big deal about it. No one sent a card. I did not expect them to. On the top shelf of my bookcase sits a small cedar box. Dark brown silver latch, the kind that feels important when you hold it. My grandmother left it to me when she passed away last spring. Her name was Dorothy Haynes. Everyone called her Dot. She was the bookkeeper at Riverview Community Credit Union in Westerville, Ohio for 22 years. She kept every ledger by hand in blue ink, in small careful letters that never changed from decade to decade. She used to tell me that numbers are the only language where you cannot lie by accident. You either have the right answer or you don't. The note in her will said, "For Sarah, the one who always checked her work. Open this when the time comes." She had tucked a second note under the lid. "Don't open it early. You will know when." 6 months later, the box was still on the shelf. Still closed. I thought I was waiting for the right moment. I did not know yet that the right moment was already on its way. Here is what you need to know about the Mitchell family. My mother Linda is 58. She worked as an office manager at a pediatric clinic for 19 years before she retired early and married my stepfather, Ron Castillo, about 7 years ago. Ron is a retired contractor who flipped residential properties for most of his career. He is not a cruel man. He is, however, a man who believes that whoever talks loudest is whoever is right. My biological father has been out of the picture since I was 14. That is a different story for a different day. My sister Amanda is 26, 5 years younger than me. She works part-time as a lifestyle content creator and part-time as a bridal boutique assistant. She helps other people plan their big moments while someone else quietly covers her expenses. That someone has always been our mother and Ron. I am not guessing. I have documentation. Over the past 8 years, my mother and Ron have financially supported Amanda in ways they described to me as helping her find her footing. Here is what that actually looked like in numbers. They paid her rent in Cincinnati for 5 years. $825 a month. That is $49,500. They covered her car lease. A white SUV she said she needed for her work. $360 a month for 3 years. $12,960. They cleared her credit card debt twice. Once after a trip to Mexico she described on social media as a mental health reset. Once after she redecorated her apartment with what she called intentional pieces. Combined, $17,200. I did not track these numbers to build a case. I tracked them because my mother told me about every single one of them. She would call on a Sunday afternoon and say something like, "Amanda is behind again. I just don't know where it goes." And she would leave that sentence hanging there like a question she hoped I would answer. I never did. I never added it all up either. Not until later. My stepfather Ron has a saying he uses whenever money comes up. Blood is thicker than a balance sheet. He says it like it ends conversations. It never ends anything. It just stops people from asking the next question. 10 days before Christmas, my mother sent a group text. Holiday dinner at our place. Amanda has big news. Don't miss it. I read it and set my phone face down on my desk. Big news from Amanda could mean many things. But she had been posting photographs all fall with a man named Jake Ellison. Pictures at apple orchards, pictures at rooftop dinners, pictures with captions like home. I knew what big news meant. Christmas morning I packed the car. A green bean casserole in a foil wrap dish. A canvas bag of gifts I had selected carefully over the previous 3 weeks. A leather wallet for Ron. A cookbook for my mother. A set of linen dish towels for Amanda. Nice ones, practical ones, the kind that last. I am careful with gifts. People sometimes interpret this as coldness. I interpret it as attention. On the passenger seat sat a tin of peanut butter cookies I had baked the night before from my grandmother Dot's recipe. Same ingredients, same measurements, same oven temperature. I had not changed a single thing. Before I left, I stood in front of the bookcase and looked at the cedar box. Silver latch, dark wood, the faint smell of cedar oil. You will know when, she had written. I touched the latch. I did not open it. The drive to my mother's house in Westerville is about 25 minutes north on I-71. I listened to a voicemail from Amanda on the way. Sarah, I cannot wait for tonight. It is going to be so perfect. I love you so much. Her voice had that particular quality, bright, fast, just a few steps ahead of itself, like a person performing an emotion they have rehearsed. Something was coming. Something that had nothing to do with Christmas ham and family board games. I parked behind my aunt's minivan and sat in the car for 60 full seconds. The house looked exactly as it always looks at Christmas. White lights along the porch railing, a wreath on the front door made from pine branches and red ribbon, the warm yellow glow of the living room through the front window. Normal. Familiar. Completely expected. I picked up the casserole, balanced the cookie tin on top, and walked toward the steps. 24 relatives were inside. I was about to learn what I was worth to every single one of them. My mother's house in Westerville is a 3-bedroom colonial that she and Ron bought together 6 years ago. For big family holidays, Ron drags 2 folding tables out of the garage and pushes them together in the dining room, and my mother covers everything with a long white tablecloth that has been used so many times its corners have gone soft. My grandmother gave my mother that tablecloth. It has been at every Christmas dinner for as long as I can remember. She used to smooth it with both hands before anyone sat down and say, A tablecloth that has seen enough meals is worth more than one that's been kept in a drawer. I walked in carrying my dishes, hugged my Aunt Brenda, shook hands with my Uncle Tom, kissed 2 cousins on the cheek. The house smelled like roasting ham and pine from the tree in the living room corner. My mother met me at the kitchen door. She hugged me. She held on a half-second longer than usual, her palm flat against my back. I felt something in that hug that was not quite warmth. It was readiness, like a person who already knows what the test results say. Amanda was already at the table, seated next to Jake Ellison. He stood when I came in and offered his hand. "Great to meet you properly, Sarah." He was tall, with a friendly face and an easy posture. He wore a collared shirt under a sweater, and his hair was neatly cut. Nobody in my family cuts their hair before Christmas dinner. His family, I would later learn, considers that kind of thing standard. I took my seat across from Amanda, next to my great-uncle Walter, my grandmother Dot's older brother, 78 years old, quiet and slow-moving in the way of a person who has watched enough of life to stop being in a hurry. My mother stood at the head of the table and tapped her knife against her wine glass. She always begins with warmth. She has done it my entire life. I want to start by saying how grateful I am to have everyone here tonight. This family is everything. Pause. Smile. Eye contact moving deliberately around the table. As many of you know already, Amanda and Jake got engaged last month, and we are absolutely thrilled. Applause. Amanda covered her face with her hands. Jake put his arm around her shoulders. Then my mother's voice shifted. Just a fraction. Still warm, but with a different structure underneath it. The way a welcome mat looks the same but feels different when there is concrete under it instead of wood. Planning a wedding, as we all know, takes resources. Amanda has her heart set on the Grandview Manor in Dublin, crystal chandeliers, live string quartet, 170 guests, custom floral from a grower in Asheville. It is going to be absolutely stunning. She turned toward me. 24 pairs of eyes followed her gaze like a slow wave. "Sarah, sweetheart, you have always been the steady one in this family. You have always been the planner. Amanda needs her big sister right now. What we are asking is for you to contribute toward this wedding. The amount we have in mind is $78,000. The room went completely still. I heard the furnace click on somewhere beneath the floor. I looked at my mother. Her hands were folded on the table. Her chin was level. She had said these words before. She had said them to 24 people before she said them to me. "Mom," I said. I kept my voice flat because I chose to keep it flat. "I cannot do that." My Aunt Brenda spoke from the far end of the table. "Sarah, your grandmother would have wanted you to help your sister." I took a sip of water, set the glass down exactly where it had been. Grandma Dot left me a cedar box and a note that said, "For the one who always checked her work." I said, I don't think she meant for me to write a $78,000 check without a single question asked. My mother's expression closed. Ron stood up. He is a broad man, built wide through the shoulders from years of physical work. He does not raise his voice, I will give him that. What he does instead is stand very still and speak from somewhere deep in his chest, as if the weight of his words is meant to replace the volume. "Sarah." He looked at me, hands at his sides. "Steady. Your mother and I have talked about this at length. Everyone at this table supports Amanda. You owe your sister this." I looked around. 24 faces. Not one of them said a word in the other direction. My great-uncle Walter sat 2 seats to my left, staring at the tablecloth. He told me afterward that he had not known about the $78,000 until that moment, that the number had struck him silent. I did not know that then. All I saw was a room that had already made its decision. I do not owe anyone $78,000 for an event I was never consulted about, I said. Same voice. Same hands resting in my lap. Amanda's eyes filled. She pressed her napkin to her mouth. Jake put his hand on her back. My mother pointed across the table. Look what you are doing to her. On Christmas. I set my napkin on the table. Flat. Even. I love every one of you, I said. But I am not going to sit here and agree to something this significant in front of an audience. If you want to have this conversation, we will have it privately. Not here, not like this. I pushed back my chair. I walked to the front door, picked up my coat and walked out. I drove north on I-71 with both hands on the wheel, and my jaw clenched tight enough to feel it in my temples. I was not afraid. I was wired, the kind of adrenaline that comes not from danger, but from having done something for the very first time. The first time I had ever stood up from a family table and walked out while everyone was still watching. My phone on the passenger seat began lighting up before I reached the highway ramp. For calls. I did not answer. By the time I passed the county line, there were 11 more. By the time I climbed the stairs to my apartment and locked the door behind me, there were 22. I set the phone on my kitchen counter screen down. It glowed faintly through the case, steady and insistent. I looked at the cedar box on my bookcase. Silver latch. Dot's handwriting on the note inside. Not yet, I said to the empty apartment. I took off my coat. I drank a glass of cold water standing at the sink. Then I went to bed. I did not cry. I want to say that clearly because there is an assumption that when a woman walks away from that kind of confrontation, she falls apart somewhere private. I did not. Because I was not sad. I was calculating. Lying in the dark, I ran the numbers I already knew. $49,500 in rent. $12,960 in car payments. $17,200 in credit card debt. That was $79,660 my mother and Ron had given Amanda over 8 years. They had given me nothing. I had never asked for anything. They had never offered anything. And now, on top of all of that, they wanted $78,000 more. From me. I stared at the ceiling. The phone pulsed on the counter. I let it pulse. The next morning I woke at 6, made coffee strong and picked up my phone. 97 missed calls. 38 voicemails. I scrolled through the caller list the same way I scroll through a client's bank statement. Name, time, frequency, pattern. My mother 11 times. Ron 3. Aunt Brenda 6. Uncle Tom 4. A cousin named Derek who texts me on my birthday and Christmas 4 times. My mother's friend from her book club, a woman named Carol who I have not spoken to since I was in college 3 times. People who barely knew my last name had called to weigh in on my savings account. I listened to 4 voicemails. My mother, voice low and unsteady. How could you do this to your sister? Tonight was supposed to be special. She cried herself to sleep, Sarah. She cried herself to sleep. Aunt Brenda, careful and precise, the voice of a woman who believes she is being both kind and correct. Honey, your grandmother always wanted this family to stay close. I think she would be heartbroken to see this. Ron 3 sentences. You owe Amanda this. That is all I am going to say. It was not all he would say. Cousin Derek, almost apologetic. Just do it. It is not worth losing everyone over. I sat at my kitchen table and opened a notebook. 4 columns. Date, caller, summary, notes. Not a legal document. A coping mechanism. When the world tilts, I build columns. By 9 in the morning, I had 2 pages of notes and 1 clear conclusion. 97 calls in under 20 hours does not happen on its own. Someone had organized this. Someone had called Aunt Brenda, Uncle Tom, Derek, Carol from the book club and said, "Call Sarah, she is being selfish, she needs to hear it from you." That someone was my mother. I had watched her coordinate the entire logistics of her church's annual fundraiser with the precision of a project manager. Call list, assign tasks, follow-up reminders. This was the exact same approach. She had just replaced donated baked goods with coordinated guilt. I went to work the next day because work is where things make sense. I had 2 client files to close before year-end and I needed the quiet of numbers that behaved. Mid-morning my cousin Derek texted. "Come on. It's not worth it. Just help her." I typed back. "I didn't set the price. Mom did." He did not reply. Around 11 our receptionist knocked on my door. "There's a woman named Carol on the line. She says it's personal." I took the call. Carol's voice was soft and rehearsed, the voice of someone who believes they are being generous. "Honey, your mother is just beside herself. She hasn't eaten a full meal since Christmas. Could you maybe offer a partial amount? Just to show good faith." "Carol," I said, "if my mother wants to have a conversation with me, she has my number. She does not need to send someone else." A pause. "I'm just trying to help." "I know you are. But this isn't the kind of help I need." I hung up, pulled up my bank statement on screen. $38,000. $78,000 was more than double everything I had saved in 8 years of disciplined, careful living. They were not asking me to contribute. They were asking me to hollow out my entire financial foundation. That afternoon I sent my mother a short email. "Mom, I said I'm willing to talk about this privately. Please stop asking other people to contact me. I love you. Sarah." She did not respond. I refreshed my inbox 3 times before I stopped. That evening, sitting in my car in the parking garage behind my building, I thought about what Derek had texted. Not worth losing everyone over. He had it exactly backward. My family was not losing money because of me. They were losing me because of money. They just had not noticed yet. 2 days after Christmas, I was finishing a year-end review for one of our regular clients. A woman named Gloria who runs a small catering business on the west side of Columbus. Gloria is meticulous and organized, and her records are a pleasure to work with, which is why I was surprised when I found a $2,800 payment in her accounts payable with no invoice and no vendor attached. Just a date and a note. "Marcus. Family need." Called her in. "Gloria, there is a payment here for $2,800 with no documentation. Can you tell me what this was for?" She sat across from me, folded her hands. "That was a loan to my nephew. He needed first month's rent. He called and I had the money, so." "Is there a repayment agreement?" "No. He's family. I trust him." "That is completely your choice. But it needs to be documented, as a gift, a loan, or a personal draw. Otherwise it creates problems at tax time and in any audit review." She nodded slowly. "I didn't want to make it feel transactional. He's family. I understand. But even family money needs a paper trail." She left. I sat at my desk afterward and did not move for a while. I had just told a woman I barely knew to document her family's finances, to put it in writing, to stop pretending that love excuses you from arithmetic. And I had never once done that for myself. I closed Gloria's file at 5, drove home, climbed the stairs. The Cedar box was on the shelf where it had been for 6 months. Silver latch. Dot's note. "You will know when." I stood in front of it. Then I opened it. The box was lined with green velvet, worn soft at the edges from years of use. The smell reached me first, old paper, cedar, and something faint underneath that I associate with my grandmother's house in Westerville. The particular quiet of a room where careful people keep important things. On top was a photograph. Me at age 6, sitting at my grandmother's kitchen table. Dot is across from me, wearing her reading glasses on a silver chain, showing me how to record numbers in a ledger. My face is extremely serious for a 6-year-old. Dot is smiling. In the background, slightly out of focus, my mother is standing by the window. Her arms are crossed. Her eyes are on Dot and me. Below the photograph was a small white envelope with my name on the front. Dot's handwriting, small and even, the kind of letters that never changed over the decades. Inside, her credit union employee badge, cracked at one corner, laminated, and 4 bank statements. Heartland Federal Savings. Account title Dorothy R. Haynes Revocable Trust. The statements were dated 2009, 2012, 2015, and 2020. Each listed 2 sub-accounts. 2 named beneficiaries, Sarah Lynn Mitchell and Amanda Grace Mitchell. I spread all 4 statements on the kitchen table. 2009. Sarah's balance $39,000. Amanda's balance $39,000. 2012 Sarah $39,000. Amanda $39,000. Equal. 2015 Amanda $39,000. Sarah $25,400. Something had already been moved. 2020 the most recent statement. Amanda $39,000. Sarah 0. I set the paper down. Picked it up. Read it again. $39,000 had been removed from my account. I had not authorized a withdrawal. I had not been contacted about one. I turned the statement over as if an explanation might appear on the back. There was nothing. I went back into the box. Below the photograph in the envelope, held together with a small binder clip, were 3 transfer receipts printed on Heartland Federal Savings letterhead. Each one bore a signature I knew as well as my own. Linda J. Castillo, trustee. The first receipt, March 2013. Transfer of $13,400 from the Sarah Lynn Mitchell subaccount to the personal checking account of Linda J. Castillo and Ronald M. Castillo. Memo. Beneficiary expense. Credit obligation. I knew exactly what that meant. Amanda's credit cards. The second receipt, August 2015. $10,600. Memo. Beneficiary expense. Vehicle A Mitchell. Amanda's car. The third receipt, January 2018. $15,000. Memo. Beneficiary expense. Rental deposit in advance A Mitchell, Cincinnati. Amanda's apartment. The one my mother had called me about on a Tuesday evening, voice strained, saying she and Ron had scraped together whatever they could to help. They had not scraped anything together. They had reached into my trust fund and taken. I laid all 3 receipts in a row on the kitchen table. Then I added them up. $13,400. $10,600. $15,000. Total, $39,000. Every cent my grandmother had set aside for me. Gone. Redirected, one crisis at a time, with my mother's signature on every line. Amanda's account. Untouched. $39,000 still sitting in Heartland Federal Savings. I sat at that table for almost 20 minutes without moving. I did not throw anything. I did not call anyone. I checked the math. Then I checked it again. Then I looked at my mother's signature on each receipt. Linda J. Castillo. The same handwriting that appeared on every birthday card she had ever sent me. Love always, Mom. She signed my future away with the same hand she wrote love always. My grandmother's voice. Numbers are the only language where you cannot lie by accident. She was right. So let me tell you what the numbers said when I laid them all out. My grandmother created a trust in 2008 with $78,000 split evenly. $39,000 for me, $39,000 for Amanda. She named my mother as trustee. Because that is what you do. You trust your daughter to protect your granddaughter's future. Between 2013 and 2018, my mother transferred every dollar from my half of that trust into her own checking account and used it to cover Amanda's debts. Without telling me. Without asking me. Without leaving a single record anywhere I could find it. Until Dot put the receipts in the Cedar box and gave it to the one person she trusted to read them correctly. Dot knew. She must have noticed the discrepancy, or requested statements directly from the bank. She could not prove intent while she was still alive. Or perhaps she did not want to spend her final months in a war with her own daughter. So she did what a bookkeeper does. She preserved the documents. She left them for the person she trusted most. I sat at my kitchen table with those receipts, And I understood something that had been true for years, but had never had a number attached to it. This family had not forgotten about me. They had not simply preferred Amanda. They had made a series of deliberate, documented financial decisions. And every single one of them came at my expense. And now, at a Christmas dinner, they had asked for $78,000 more. As if the first 39 had never existed. I closed the Cedar box, opened my laptop, created a new file. File name Mitchell Family, full financial summary. My grandmother preserved the evidence. My job was to do the math. The spreadsheet took me 3 evenings to complete. I did not rush it. A good audit requires patience. You do not estimate. You verify. You do not fill gaps with assumptions. You mark them unconfirmed and continue. Column A date. Column B recipient. Column C amount. Column D source. Column E context. Page 1 the trust. 3 transfers. 3 dates. 3 amounts. 13,400. 10,600. 15,000. Source. Bank receipts with trustee signature. Total, $39,000. Page 2. Direct family subsidies to Amanda. Rent paid by Mom and Ron. $825 monthly for 5 years. $49,500. Source, text messages from my mother over those years, messages I had never deleted, not for any strategic reason, but because I am the kind of person who does not delete things that involve money. Amanda is behind on rent again. I just don't know what to do. Those messages were confessions. I understand that now. Car lease payments. $360 a month for 3 years. $12,960. Credit card debt cleared. 2 incidents. $17,200. Total direct subsidies. $79,660. Page 3. Support provided to Sarah Mitchell. Dollar amount 0. That page was short. It was also the loudest page in the document. Grand total. $118,660 directed toward Amanda over 8 years. To me 0. Trust funds taken from me $39,000. Amount now being requested from me $78,000. If I paid it, the lifetime disparity would reach $235,660. I sat with that number for a long time. I had known about the subsidies for years. I had known it the way you know a window is drafty, you feel the cold, you put on a sweater, but you do not file a complaint with the weather. But the $39,000 from the trust, that was different. That was not a parent choosing favorites. That was a legal act. That was a signature on a document. That was a line item on a bank receipt. I saved the file, backed it up to a flash drive, emailed a copy to myself. Then I drove out to see Uncle Walter. My great-uncle Walter lives by himself in a small house off a county road outside Westerville, about 3 miles from where my grandmother grew up. He still keeps bird feeders in the backyard even in January, and he walks out every morning to refill them regardless of the temperature. He is 78 years old. He was Dot's younger brother by 4 years, though you would never know it from the way he carries himself. He speaks carefully and slowly, the way people do when they have learned that the wrong word costs more than silence. I drove out on a Saturday without calling ahead. He was on the back porch, replacing a rotted board on his deck railing, something that could have waited another month. "Sarah." He set down the hammer. "Come inside." We sat at his kitchen table. He made instant coffee without asking and set it in front of me. I did not warm up to it. "Uncle Walter, did Grandma ever mention that she had set up a trust for me and Amanda?" He was quiet for a long time. He looked at the window at the bird feeders outside. "She told me it was split even," he said. 39 each. "She told me she named your mother as the trustee because she did not know who else to ask." A pause. "She told me she was not sure it was the right call." "Did she say anything about it later?" Near the end, he looked at me. Something moved in his expression, a decision being made. About 6 weeks before she passed, she called me. She said she thought some of the money from your side had been moved. She could not prove it in a way she felt comfortable pushing on. She said she did not want to spend whatever time she had left fighting with Linda. He stopped. She said she had put everything where the right person would find it. I reached into my bag and set the 3 transfer receipts on the table in front of him. He picked them up. Read each one slowly. His jaw tightened. The skin around his eyes went tight. She was right, I said quietly. He handed them back to me. When he looked at me, his eyes were bright. He is not a man who cries. He was not crying. But he was close. You tell me when you need me to say what I know to the family, he said. I should have asked more questions a long time ago. I owe that. I thanked him. We sat at that table without talking for a while, both of us looking out at the bird feeders, at the cold gray January sky. Then I drove home. The next piece came from a direction I had not expected. A colleague of mine at the firm, a CPA named Marcus who has been at Carver & Associates longer than anyone, stopped by my doorway on a Wednesday morning. Hey, rough holiday. He had heard me mention the Christmas situation to our office manager. I gave him a quick version. Dinner. The announcement. The phone calls. He nodded then. Wait, Jake Ellison? As an Ellison commercial group. I looked at him. His family. They have been in commercial real estate in Central Ohio for 30 years. His uncle built 4 mixed-use properties off Polaris Parkway in the last decade. His father sold a portfolio 2 years ago for well into 7 figures. He set his coffee mug on my door frame. Sarah, that family is not struggling. They are not even comfortable in the ordinary sense. They have serious money. I stared at him. He continued. I am not sharing anything confidential, but Franklin County property records are public. You can look up Ellison Commercial Group in the assessor's database. All of it is right there. He left. That evening I called Jake. I did not go through Amanda. Jake, one quick question. Is your family planning to contribute to the wedding costs? A pause. Then carefully. Amanda told me your family wanted to handle it as a gift. She specifically told my parents they did not need to be involved. I let that sit for a moment. There is no tradition like that, Jake. I don't know where that came from. A longer pause. My parents offered to cover half. $39,000. Amanda told them it was already handled. I closed my eyes briefly. I think you should talk to Amanda about that. Yeah, he said quietly. I think I need to. I hung up. Added a new line to page 4 of the spreadsheet. Ellison family offer, $39,000. Declined by Amanda. That single line changed the shape of everything. Amanda had not just asked me to fund her wedding. She had turned down money from a family that had plenty of it, so she could come to the one person who did not. Amanda called at 10:47 that night. You called Jake. Her voice was thin and tight. I asked him one question. He answered honestly. You are trying to turn him against me. I am trying to understand why you turned down $39,000. She did not deny it. Instead, she shifted, the way she always shifts, away from the direct thing and toward the emotional center. I am scared, Sarah. Her voice dropped, went quieter. Real now or something close to it. I have been scared for a long time. I cannot manage money. I never could. I watch you just handle everything and I don't understand how you do it. I have never been able to do it. And for a moment I heard her. Not the version of her that posts curated photographs and expects other people to fund what is behind them. The real version. The one who used to climb into my bed during bad thunderstorms when she was small and ask me to count the seconds between the lightning and the thunder, because counting made the scary thing smaller. I softened. I am not going to pretend I didn't. And then she said, that is what sisters are for. You help me because you can. And just like that, the moment closed. Can and should are not the same word. Having the capacity to do something is not the same as being obligated to do it. I had spent 8 years being the sister who could. And somewhere along the way, my family had turned that into the sister who owed. I can, Amanda. But can and should are not the same word. I hung up, rinsed my face, went to bed. The phone did not ring again that night. New Year's came and went. I did not go home. Nobody called to check on me either, which told me everything I needed to know. On January 4th, I sat at my desk and opened the spreadsheet one final time before the meeting. The numbers had not changed. I made 3 decisions. I wrote them in my planner in my own handwriting because I needed to see them on paper. 1. I would not pay for the wedding. 2. I would not cut my family off. I would give them the full picture, every number, every source laid out the way I would present any honest audit. 3. If they saw the numbers and still chose to call it fair, I would step back. Not in anger. In clarity. That afternoon I emailed my mother. Mom, I've been going through Grandma.'s things. I found some financial documents I'd like to discuss with you and Ron. I'm available whenever you want to meet. Just the 2 of you. Privately. She replied within 30 minutes. Whatever left you has nothing to do with Amanda's wedding. You are changing the subject to avoid doing the right thing. I read that twice. She did not ask what documents. She did not ask what I had found. A person who does not know what is in the box says, "What is in the box?" A person who already knows says, "Stop trying to change the subject." My mother already knew exactly what was in the Cedar box. The following Saturday, I was making soup when someone knocked on my door. 3 quick knocks. I looked through the peephole. My mother, standing in her winter coat, no gloves, her eyes red in the way they get when she has been crying alone in a car. I opened the door. "We need to talk about the wedding," she said. "I agree. But you could have called." "I drove 40 minutes, Sarah." I stepped aside. She came in. She sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I had spread out the trust receipts a week and a half before, and folded her hands. "Sarah, family does not keep score." There it was. The phrase she uses like a master key, as if it opens every door she wants open and closes every one she does not want examined. "I have always been fair with both of my daughters," she continued. "Amanda needs this one celebration. One day. One beautiful memory. You have the ability. Why is that so complicated?" "You said I never asked you for anything," I said. "That is true. But you never told me I did not need to ask because Grandma had already set something aside." Her face shifted. "I am your mother. I made decisions for this family. You made decisions using money that was designated for me. And you signed every receipt." She pressed her palms flat on the table. Her chin was trembling. "You do not understand what it is like to watch your child struggle and be unable to help." "I understand exactly what it cost," I said. "I have it in a spreadsheet." She stared at me for a long moment. Then she stood, pulled on her coat, and walked out without finishing what she was saying. She did not ask about the spreadsheet. She already knew what was in it. 3 days later, an email from Ron. Long. No greeting. The kind of message a person has been composing in their head for days and finally releases all at once. "Sarah, I thought we raised you with values that put family first. Your mother has given everything she has to this household, and she has never once complained. Amanda's wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime moment. You have the means. You owe her this. I am not going to argue about it. I am asking you not to make your mother choose between her daughters." I sat with that last sentence. Do not make her choose between her daughters. As if the choosing had not already happened. As if every dollar sent to Amanda's landlord was not a choice. As if reaching into my trust fund and withdrawing $39,000 was not the most specific and deliberate choice a person can make. I did not reply. Instead, I went back to the spreadsheet and added notes to the final column. Next to each line item, I wrote what had been happening at the time. Credit card cleared. Amanda had just returned from a trip to Mexico. No repayment discussed. Rent paid. Amanda had not renewed her boutique contract. Called mom upset. Trust withdrawal 3. Amanda moving to new Cincinnati apartment. Mom told me she and Ron scraped together the deposit. Then I printed the spreadsheet. 5 pages. Clean formatting. Each number sourced. No emotional commentary. Just columns and facts. I clipped the pages together with a small binder clip, the same kind I had used on the receipts in the box, and set them on top of the Cedar box. The meeting was coming. I needed to be ready. Before the family meeting, I did something I rarely do. I applied my professional skills to a personal question. Property records in Ohio are public. I pulled the Franklin County Assessor database during my lunch break and searched Ellison Commercial Group and related entities. 12 commercial properties. 5 office buildings. 2 mixed-use developments. Total assessed value in the 7 figures, well above. I also called a real estate attorney I know through the firm, not to begin any legal action, but to ask one question. Is a trustee legally permitted to transfer funds from one beneficiary's account to cover expenses for a different beneficiary? Her answer without hesitation. No. Not without written authorization from the affected beneficiary, and not without documentation classifying it as a documented loan or a formal gift. What you are describing may constitute a breach of fiduciary duty. I thanked her, filed the information clearly labeled in a folder I could find later, and did not pursue it further. Not yet. My mother's text arrived on a Wednesday evening. Family meeting. Sunday at 2. Our house. We are going to settle this together. Same tone she uses to organize her church's spring fundraiser. Direct, organized, already decided. She had called the inner circle. Herself and Ron. Amanda and Jake. Aunt Brenda. Uncle Tom. 3 cousins she considered essential voices. 12 people total. She believed this meeting would end the way Christmas dinner should have ended. Sarah would feel the pressure of the room. Sarah would come around. Sarah would write the check. I replied with 2 words. I'll be there. My mother, I learned later, forwarded that reply to Amanda with a note. She is coming around. She just needs to hear it from everyone together. What my mother did not know was that I had a plan too. Mine fit inside a Cedar box. Sunday morning. I ironed my navy blazer. The one I wear when I present year-end audits to clients. White blouse underneath. My good watch. A simple Timex my grandmother gave me the day I passed my CPA exam. Hair back. Shoes I could stand in all afternoon. I was not dressing for a confrontation. I was dressing for a presentation. There is a meaningful difference between the two. A confrontation is about emotion. Presentation is about evidence. Evidence does not require a raised voice. I printed 5 copies of the complete financial summary. Each one 5 pages, stapled in the upper left corner, with a header I use for client documents. Mitchell Family, 8-year financial summary. Prepared by Sarah L. Mitchell, CPA. Page 1, Trust Diversion. Pages 2 and 3, Direct Family Subsidies. Page 4, Ellison Family Declined Offer. Page 5, Lifetime Disparity Comparison. I placed 4 copies in a manila envelope and tucked it inside the Cedar box. The 5th copy I kept in my bag. I photographed every page and emailed the images to myself. Backup. I called Uncle Walter the night before. The meeting is Sunday at 2. Will you be there? I should have said something a long time ago, he said. I will be there. I set the Cedar box by my front door. Checked the spreadsheet one final time. Every number sourced. Every line verified. Then I went to sleep. 25 minutes south on I-71. The same bare January fields. The same gray winter sky. But my hands were steady on the wheel this time. I parked behind Uncle Walter's truck. He had arrived early. Good. 6 other cars lined the driveway: Ron's SUV, Aunt Brenda's minivan, Jake's car, 2 cousins I recognized. The house looked the same. The same Christmas lights still up, slightly dimmed now. The same wreath on the door. I walked in carrying the cedar box. The dining room was arranged the same way as Christmas. Tables pushed together, chairs in a loose circle, my mother's good tablecloth laid flat. Coffee on the sideboard. A plate of store-bought cookies. And in the center of the table, a tall red candle lit, burning steadily. 12 people seated or standing. My mother at the head, hands folded, expression arranged for authority. Ron to her right. Amanda at the far end, Jake beside her, his hand on the table near hers but not quite touching. Aunt Brenda had her reading glasses on. Uncle Tom sat with his arms crossed. Uncle Walter was in the corner, in a wooden chair he had pulled away from the wall. He caught my eye and gave one slow nod. I set the cedar box on the table. It landed with a soft, solid sound, cedar and paper, and 22 years of a careful woman's attention. My mother looked at it. I watched something move across her face. Small, involuntary, quick. A tightening at the jaw, a tightening around the eyes. She knew what was inside. "Thanks for setting this up, Mom," I said. "I'm ready." My mother opened with the script she had prepared. She held her coffee mug in both hands, a composed and deliberate posture. "Sarah, we are all here because this family loves you. Nobody wants this to become larger than it needs to be. Amanda's wedding is in June. 5 months. We need to move forward." Aunt Brenda leaned in. "Your grandmother always said family is what you come back to. I know she would want you to show up for your sister." "She did say that," I agreed. "She also left me something else. We will get to it." Uncle Tom cleared his throat. "Your parents have always been fair. Nobody is keeping count here." "Actually," I said, "someone was." Ron stood. He stood because Ron always stands when he wants the room to feel the weight of what he is about to say. "Sarah," voice low and deliberate, sad in the way of a man who has practiced sounding sad, "your sister needs this. You owe her this." The phrase dropped into the room. Amanda pressed a napkin to her eyes. Jake looked at the tablecloth. I let 5 full seconds pass. Then, "I hear all of you. Now I need you to hear me." I opened the cedar box. I removed the manila envelope. I pulled out 5 copies of the financial summary and passed them around the table. 1 to Ron, 1 to Aunt Brenda, 1 to Amanda, 1 to Uncle Tom, 1 in the center of the table for anyone else. The room was quiet while paper unfolded. This is an 8-year financial summary of this family's finances. I am a licensed CPA. This is what I do for a living. So I did it for us. I kept my voice at the same register I use with clients. Clear, even, factual. The voice I use when I am telling someone something true that they do not want to hear. Page 1. My grandmother created a trust in 2008. $78,000. $39,000 for me. $39,000 for Amanda. I turned the page. As of the most recent statement I have, Amanda's account holds $39,000. Untouched. A pause. My account holds 0. $39,000 was withdrawn between 2013 and 2018, in 3 separate transfers, by the named trustee. I looked at my mother. "That is you, Mom. I have the receipts. They are in this box. They have your signature." My mother's mouth opened. That money was needed. Amanda was struggling. I made a decision. I nodded once, the nod I give clients who begin explaining before I have finished presenting, and kept going. Pages 2 and 3. Over the past 8 years, you and Ron provided Amanda with approximately $79,660 in direct financial support. I went through it. The rent, the car, the credit card payments. I cited the sources, text messages, dates, specific amounts. Each number landed in the quiet room with the particular weight of facts that can be verified. Ron had picked up his copy. He scanned the first page and set it face down on the table. He was looking at the candle. Aunt Brenda was reading page 2, glasses low on her nose. Uncle Tom had not touched his copy. Uncle Walter sat in his corner chair, hands folded, watching my mother. Page 4. I turned. Jake's family, the Ellisons, offered to pay half the wedding costs, $39,000. Amanda declined that offer and told the Ellisons her family was already taking care of it. Amanda stood up. That is private. So is a trust fund, I said. She sat down. Page 5. Grand total. I held the page so the room could see. Over 8 years, this family directed $118,660 to Amanda and $0 to me. You are now asking for $78,000 more from me. If I paid it, the lifetime disparity would exceed $235,000. My mother rose from her chair so quickly it scraped across the floor. You are tearing this family apart. Her voice broke on the word apart and climbed. This is not about money. This is about whether you are loyal to this family. I stayed seated, both hands flat on the table. Voice level. Mom, everything in this family has been about money. You just never wanted to count it. Uncle Walter rose from his corner chair. The room turned. He spoke in the same quiet, even voice he always uses, the voice of a person who does not need volume because he trusts what he is saying. Linda. He looked at my mother directly. Dot told me about that trust. She told me she split it even because she wanted both girls to start from the same place. She told me before she died that she was worried the money had been moved. She asked me to keep an eye on it. He paused. I didn't. That was my failure. I'm not going to fail her again. Walter, please. The receipts are right there, Linda. They have your name on them. The room was completely still. I closed the cedar box and stood. You told me I owe my sister. Here is what I owe this family. I looked around the table. Nothing. But I am not here to collect. I am here to close the account. I looked at my mother. You are right that family does not keep score. But somebody kept the books. No one spoke. I looked at Amanda. I am not paying for the wedding. I am not paying for anything going forward. And I am asking once clearly, that no one at this table ever tell me I owe anyone here anything again. Then directly to Amanda. Call the Ellisons. They already said yes. I picked up the cedar box. I turned and walked to the front door. Behind me chairs shifted, but no one followed. Almost no one. Jake caught me on the porch. He had his coat half on. His expression the particular mix of embarrassment and resolve of someone who has just fully understood a situation. Sarah. I stopped. I am sorry. I did not know any of this. He exhaled. I am calling my parents tonight. We will take care of the wedding. That is between you and Amanda, I said. Not with coldness. With the calm of someone who has finished a job and is setting the tools down. He nodded and went back inside. I stood on the porch for a moment. Through the window I could see the dining room. Ron had not moved from his chair. He sat staring at the spreadsheet in front of him. The first time in this entire situation that he had nothing left to say. The system he had participated in and called love, take from the one who won't ask, give to the one who always will and call it family, had run into something it could not override. Actual documentation. Aunt Brenda had both hands flat on the table reading page 5. I had no idea, I heard her say. I had absolutely no idea any of this was happening. My mother was still standing, one hand gripping the back of her chair, her eyes on the spot on the table where the cedar box had been. I walked to my car, started the engine, pulled out of the driveway, 25 minutes north on I-71. Same road, Same fields. Same sky. My hands were steady. My phone was silent. 2 weeks passed. I went to work. I closed for client files. I made coffee at 6 every morning and helped people understand their money with honesty and patience. The Mitchell family rearranged itself the way families do after something true has been spoken. Not all at once, but in small quiet shifts. Jake called his parents that same evening. The Ellisons, who had been quietly confused for months about why their offer had been turned down, agreed immediately to cover 60% of the wedding. Not as a negotiation. With the easy generosity of people who had wanted to help all along. Amanda and Jake downsized the plan. The Grandview Manor was out. They booked a garden venue outside Westerville. White tent, local flowers, a curated playlist instead of a live quartet. Total cost, $34,000. Still real. Still beautiful. Just not a production built on someone else's financial ruin. My mother did not call for 2 weeks. For a woman who had coordinated 97 phone calls in a single day, 2 weeks of silence was its own kind of statement. I did not know if it meant regret or strategy or simply the disorientation of a person whose system had stopped working. I did not chase the answer. Ron sent me a text on a Thursday morning. For words, I am sorry, Sarah. No condition attached. No justification following it. I had never received an apology from Ron Castillo that stood alone. I replied thank you. Nothing more. Aunt Brenda called once. I owe you an apology. I showed up to that dinner already on a side without knowing anything. You did not have the full information, Brenda. Now you do. Uncle Walter came to Columbus for dinner on a Thursday evening. We ate chicken soup at my kitchen table and talked about Dot. Not about the trust. Not about the transfers. About Dot, her garden in the summer, her handwriting, the way she used to hum while she balanced the credit union ledgers. She knew you would handle it right, he said. I refilled his coffee. I did not say anything. 3 weeks after the meeting, Amanda texted me. Sarah, I know I owe you more than a text message. I am not ready to have the whole conversation yet, but I want to have it eventually. I know what happened was not fair. I know I let it happen. I don't know how to begin making it right, but I want to. I read it twice. Then I replied, you can start by not expecting me to pay for things going forward. We can figure out the rest. She did not respond right away. I did not expect her to. I am not removing Amanda from my life. I thought about it, and that is not what I want. But I am done funding a relationship and calling it a sisterhood. The next step belongs to her. I can wait. That afternoon, I opened the spreadsheet on my laptop one last time. Mitchell Family, 8-year financial summary. I looked at it for a moment. Then I saved it, changed the file name to closed_counter_final, and moved it to an archived folder. About 6 weeks after the meeting, a wedding invitation arrived in my mailbox. New design. New venue. Smaller guest list. My name was on the inner envelope. Sarah Mitchell guest. Not the one who pays. Not the one who owes. Not maid of honor in exchange for a down payment. Guest. Someone who is there because they chose to be. I held the envelope in the hallway outside my apartment for a moment. Then I slid it into my planner and went upstairs to make dinner. I am writing this at my kitchen table. The same table where I opened the Cedar box. The same table where I built the spreadsheet. The same table where my mother sat and told me family does not keep score. The Cedar box is back on the shelf. Closed. The silver latch catching the morning light. The phone is quiet. Here is what I know now that I did not know on Christmas. My grandmother saw what was happening. She saw it and she could not stop it. She was 74 years old, she loved her daughter, and she did not want to spend whatever time she had left inside a war. So she did what a bookkeeper does when the numbers are wrong and the people who made them wrong have the power. She preserved the documentation. She sealed it somewhere it would be safe. She left it for the person she trusted most to read it correctly. She was right to trust her. Family is not a balance sheet. That is true. But if every withdrawal comes from one account and every deposit goes to another, and everyone agrees to look away, that is not love. That is an arrangement that works well for some people and costs everything for others. Dressed up in the language of loyalty. I am 31 years old. I live above a converted warehouse in Columbus, Ohio. I drive a Camry with a cracked bumper. I make coffee at 6 o'clock every morning. I help people understand where their money goes and why honesty about that matters. My grandmother called me the one who always checked her work. She was right. So check your work. Check all of it. And if someone tells you that checking makes you cold, hand them the receipts. If this story resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below. And subscribe, because the quietest person at the table usually has the most to say.